The arts are not a way of making a living. They are a very human way of making life more bearable. Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow, for heaven's sake. Sing in the shower, dance to the radio, tell stories, write a poem to a friend, even a lousy poem. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get an enormous reward. You will have created something. I do want to start with that, because if we're going to talk about contests, we do really have to say that's not why we write. You know? I do want to talk about why enter the particular contest which I'm here to talk about, the Poetry Society Virginia contest, I suppose. That being the case, that we don't write for the sake of contests. Very few people, not those, even those who end up making a living in the poetry biz, write a poem to be rich or famous, or to win a contest. We do it to make our soul grow. And the act of marketing our poetry, or even of subjecting it to the scrutiny of others, can actually sometimes shrink our soul. Yet we do want to share our work, right? Because we're telling the world who we are and what we value. And we want the world to care. I struggle hard against the temptation of writing to please the world, at the expense of pleasing myself. And I worry about getting invested in publication strategies, and I worry about caring about contest strategies. But I'm still going to talk about strategies. They're competing in the Poetry Society Virginia contest because we are a community. And why I value this set of contests particularly is that we're a community precisely for the purpose I was talking about, to share, to listen to support each other as we learn to write better. It's a vehicle to reach out to others with what we value, to a group of people who we know. Now, the kind of contests that Bill has been talking about, when you publish, when you're sending out to magazines, I actually am more leery about, because I feel that it's often sending stuff out into the void. But when I'm submitting to this, I'm sending to people who know me. Yeah? And I like the act of sharing and communicating with other people of whom I'm a community much more than putting it in some place somewhere where people who I don't know and will never meet get to see it and won't care about it. They might not care here either, but I get the impression. So, if you don't take yourself too seriously as you go about it, it is also just pure fun, and that goes for all these contests as well, to challenge yourself to come up with things that fit various criteria which are imposed upon you. And as Bill was saying, in the Poetry Society Virginia contest there are 25 categories. That means there are a lot of ways to challenge yourself to meet a particular set of criteria. Yeah? It's fun. It's a way to hone your skills, and it's a way to figure out new approaches. Those things also, and it's fun. Now, a quote from Molly Fisk, who judged category 19, the Anne Spencer Memorial, for a poem about overcoming adversity in last year's Poetry Society Virginia contest. Here's what she said. Judging contests is always fascinating. People's writing is good for so many different reasons, and sometimes you're sitting with apples, oranges, and pomegranates, trying to make sense of ranking them. That's when I remind myself that I got hired to do this because of my knowledge and also my taste. And if I like pomegranates best, it's okay to write them highly. In other words, who the judge is matters a whole lot to your chances. Judges have their pomegranates. And as Bill was saying when he was doing his part of the presentation, it's not that predictable. But they have their pomegranates, and just accept it. So you don't take failure or success too seriously. Or the success, I'll say that. Here's a quote from me from an email I wrote to a friend after last year's contest who felt a bit aggrieved that she didn't win anything and was puzzled by some of the things that did. And I said to her, I do think that the judging of these contests is a crapshoot. as much about taste as it is about quality. On the other hand, I always have a good sense of what kind of work has the best chance. And I listed some things which I always try to pay in mind, pay attention to some degree at least. And that is that the work is serious, except for the light verse categories. I'm going to talk about an exception, a category where I always enter with the same light poem. And know it's never going to win. I've just got this kind of quixotic mission with it. But basically, you're looking for work which is going to be serious. That generally gets preferred over work which is light. Even the Limerick contest last year was won by a serious poem. And I would say that's an exception. I think most judges of the Limerick contest are going to choose something funny. But sometimes a judge will not. The serious stuff gets more consideration than the light stuff. That it's movingly human. You tell a story which hits the heart, and you have more of a chance, I think. That it's somewhat musical. Obviously, we're always trying to do this as poets, but it is a way to get a poem discounted. It's clunky sounding. That it's verbally inventive without being overwrought. That you're paying attention to the language. That the language is as sparely written as it's appropriate to be, that you're writing with some economy as well as some verve. That it's also, and I think this matters maybe more when you're talking about publishing in the larger kind of arena, but it's in the cultured mainstream voice and style of the day. I do think that you have more of a chance if you're page to page. I guess I'll come back to that part. But yeah, now saying that, and this is what I said in the rest of my email to my friend, because I've been getting asides from my email, from my message to her. I'm always surprised, both, and I'm talking about my own work as much as anyone else's, by what wins a prize and what doesn't. You know, even though I think I have a good idea of what kind of poems I should be choosing, it's always going to be a surprise because judges have their pomegranates. Okay. So do take anything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But out of the 8 years that I've entered the contest, I don't think I've had a year when I haven't won multiple prizes. So I do have a sense of how the strategies work. And between my 2 bouts of entering, I did judge contests about 5 different categories, about 5 or 6 times. So I've seen it from both perspectives, if you like. So what I suggest is that if you want to have a shot at winning, and why not go for it, because it's fun to try. There are a lot of categories. You can throw away some with idiotic submissions if you want to, why not? But take some of them seriously. You have a lot of shots at winning, and so submit work that is serious, but it is movingly human, but you work to make music of it, that you pay attention to the vitality and economy of its language, and that you know what kind of writing is being lauded right now, and you have a go at sounding like it. I do encourage people to read contemporary writing to get a sense of what that sounds like. You could read last year's judges. A list of them comes out with the contest. Anyway. But read the poems that are being written now in 2015 and figure out what they emphasize in their use of language and what they abjure. Okay? There are indisputably all kinds of ways to be a good poet, and your voice has to be personal, has to be authentically yours, but this language you're using is ours. I am a fervent believer in something T.S. Eliot said at the start of the 20th century. He was translating, paraphrasing something that the French poet Mallarmé said in the mid-19th, that the poet's task is to purify the dialect of the tribe. That is, it is to distill music and meaning out of our particular countries or particular localities' ordinary conversational language. The biggest turn-off for me in poetry, so if I'm judging, I'm talking about my pomegranates, if you like. The biggest turn-off for me is that the phrasings of the poem sound like something no one would ever say except in a poem. You know? For example, the diction is stilted. It's way fancier. Or the rhythms are just too stiff or something like that. It doesn't sound like anything anybody would ever say. It omits the definite and the indefinite articles. I have a real bugaboo about that. Put that and the back, you know? It doesn't make any sense without it. It sounds like a foreigner said it. That stuff is my bugaboo when I'm judging.